A single malicious line buried in a web page can turn your AI coding assistant into a remote execution tool for attackers. The vulnerability was just demonstrated at MIT in a guest lecture on AI agent security, and it affects 94% of deployed AI agents. This isn't a bug in the code. It's a structural problem in how AI agents read and interpret the world. When an AI agent processes text from an email, a documentation page, or a GitHub issue, it doesn't just read, it trusts. And that trust becomes a vector. Security researchers at Trail of Bits proved this in October 2025 by bypassing human approval protections in 3 major AI agent platforms, achieving remote code execution through what looked like perfectly safe commands. Here's what actually happens. Most AI agent frameworks include a safety feature, human approval for dangerous system commands. The agent asks, you approve, it executes. But the researchers discovered something called argument injection. The agent thinks it's running a whitelist safe command, something pre-approved like go test or pip install. But the attacker has embedded malicious arguments inside the content the agent is reading. The command looks innocent in the approval dialog, but when it executes, those arguments hijack the process. One example from the Trail of Bits research: go test with a exec flag that secretly runs bash c followed by arbitrary code. The user sees run tests. The system executes a shell. Microsoft's security team documented this in May 2026 under the title "When Prompts Become Shells." They found that prompt injection in AI agent frameworks doesn't just manipulate text responses anymore, it leads to remote code execution. The attack works because AI agents now have tool calling abilities. They don't just chat. They search file systems, query databases, call APIs, execute scripts. Every tool is a potential target. And the LLM that decides which tool to call can be manipulated by the content it reads, even when that content comes from an untrusted source. The scale of exposure is already measurable. In late January 2026, a security researcher scanned the internet using Shodan and found nearly 1,000 OpenClaw AI agent instances running with no authentication. OpenClaw is an open-source autonomous agent framework that was rapidly adopted across enterprises. CVE 2026-25253 was assigned to one of its vulnerabilities, a CVSS score of 8.8, meaning high severity. A victim only needed to visit a malicious link. The agent would automatically establish a WebSocket connection to an attacker-controlled server, and from there, the attacker controlled the agent. Anish Athalya, who delivered the MIT 6.566 lecture, walked students through the foundations of this threat class. Agents use a pattern called react, reasoning plus acting. The LLM generates a thought, selects a tool, observes the result, and repeats. The vulnerability emerges because the observation step, where the agent reads tool output or external content, is also where attackers inject instructions. The LLM can't reliably distinguish between a legitimate instruction from the system and a malicious one embedded in data it's processing. This is why researchers say the vulnerability can't be patched. You can sandbox the execution environment, filter arguments, and enforce strict access controls. But you can't fundamentally change the fact that LLMs are trained to follow instructions in text, and adversaries can hide instructions inside any text the agent reads. The defenses that do exist are architectural. Sandboxing agents in isolated environments like WebAssembly or containers limits the blast radius. Restricting tool access to read-only operations where possible reduces the attack surface. Some frameworks now use separate LLMs for intent verification. One model proposes an action, another evaluates whether it's safe. But none of these are foolproof, and the adoption curve for agentic AI is moving faster than the security model underneath it. Bessemer Venture Partners called AI agent security the defining cybersecurity challenge of 2026. They're not wrong. The agentic workforce is already here. 80% of Fortune 500 companies are running active AI agents in production, according to Microsoft's February 2026 research. What makes this moment distinct is that we're deploying autonomous systems that can take irreversible actions, delete files, transfer funds, modify production code, based on instructions embedded in content they read from the internet. And the core mechanism that lets them understand those instructions is the same mechanism that makes them vulnerable. The threat isn't going away. It's foundational.